Hey YouTube, this is Ameer Matani here, or as I'm known online Stike05, or here on YouTube is Stike96. This is a video of me showing where I started my life, or at least all I remember of my early years, all the way up until where I am now. I may not be as old or successful yet as most of the other people do enjoy my life videos out there, but I thought I'd still go ahead and make this video as it seemed like a pretty awesome thing to do. And sorry if I seem to jump around a lot between events, but believe me, shortening down my life to only a few minutes was a challenge. I have worked on this for many days to make it as great as possible, so I hope you all enjoy it. Okay, so let's start. So my life started on the 2nd of December 1996 in a place called Hayes that's in London, England. I don't really remember that much about that time, although I can kind of remember the house's garden with its greenhouse and outdoor bathroom. My sister Emily was also born while we were in that house on the 31st of December 1998. The crazy thing is that my sister was actually meant to be born on Boxing Day, so as she says, she was always meant to be born on a special day. Our TV also fell on my sister's head at some point too. She wasn't really that badly hurt though, but I think there's still a scar there. Anyway, going back to my story, one of the biggest things in my life, well, not really for me because I was too small to think about it, but for my family, was the fact that I was found to have leukemia, a type of deadly blood cancer. Of course, I didn't really care too much about it, I was too young for that. I actually used to love going to hospital. There they had some sort of console, probably a PS1 at the time. They had a football table and a whole load of other good stuff. We also got a disabled badge so we could park in the disabled parking areas. We went to a whole lot of special events funded by cancer groups, and for some crazy reason, I used to love it when they put me to sleep for operation. God only knows why. The whole thing was great in my eyes. In my family's it was horrible. It was so bad that we had to move near to my grandparents because we needed their support. I got over cancer before I was really aware of the danger I was in because of it. So to me, the fact I had it never really seemed that big, even though it was. But thanks to God, the NHS and my family and friends, I've recovered. Still, during this treatment I had to go to school. My school life was pretty ordinary from what I can remember. I used to play football every day. It used to be a bit of a pain sometimes to my teachers and my parents. I used to like to hang out with my friend Mike. He used to have this Spyro game I used to love. I think it was also him who had these epic PC games. Well, they were epic at the time. You know those games, kind of Frog Frenzy style? Looking at them now, they seem so old, but back then, wow, they were crazy good. So around a year after I was cured from cancer, my dad wanted to go back to live with his side of the family, many of whom were still living in Jordan. So we all went. I remember the first day in the school. Let's just say an example of how not to act on your first day of school. I was only 8 in grade 3 or year 4 in the English system, but I still should have known better to cry for the whole day. Well, I can't remember if it was actually the whole day, or if it was that my mum was called in to collect me, but I cried for ages. I'm surprised I didn't become dehydrated. I was lucky to have one friend in that school. Everyone else either didn't want to talk to me or bothered me. The school in itself was crazy. We couldn't even run in the playground, and there were these set days when we could use the play equipment. They also made you make up unexpected holidays on the weekend. So if you got a snow day during the week, you'd have to make it up on the weekend. Oh, and how could I forget the national anthem we had to sing every day. They also used to pile us with homework, in both English and Arabic. I would have failed without my Aunt Casey helping me out. Her first language was Arabic, so she was a great help. Out of school, I was normally either in a family-owned flat with my grandma downstairs or with my cousins, the daughters and sons of Auntie Casey. My grandma, who unfortunately passed away just after us leaving Jordan later on, used to love playing card games. I used to love card games too. With my cousins Faris, Gania and Noah, we used to play a lot on the PC and the PS2. Most of the games were by the company Capcom, and one of our favourites was Onimusha. I did have two older cousins, but one was normally with his friends and didn't want to play with us, and the other was just a little baby. They also taught me roller skating and played basketball with me. Noah and Ganya were more Ganya. They loved horror stuff, whether it's movies or games, or those things you buy from the shop that make it look like somebody stuck a knife through your head. We used to find it quite funny. There was also this shop that sold the tastiest chicken ever, close to my cousin's house. Me and my cousin often used to walk there and get some, probably too often. I was fat by the time I went back to England. But then lots of people that age seemed to be anyways. Faris certainly wasn't though, he was always thin from what I can remember. Anyway, going away from our sizes, the house in Jordan were really bad. Well, our house was anyway. We had a tank upstairs with water that had to last us between refills that only happened once a week. And the gas had to be bought from these canisters and these trucks that produced this horrible music. Well, maybe it wasn't bad at first, but after hearing it day after day after day, it became so annoying. In 2005, we went to Jamaica for my uncle's and auntie's wedding. The hotel was a highly ranked all-inclusive, which meant unlimited food and drink and many other great things. It also meant having a massive pool with things like a little hut to get drinks from to the side of the pool, and we were able to drink them without ever leaving the pool. It was so awesome. We also went on a boat trip on a river. I loved the trip to Jamaica. It was a great escape from the troubles of Jordan for a while. Backtracking a little bit, my brother Luther was born in Jordan on the 15th of December 2004. He was a cute little baby on our trip to Jamaica. And my grandma, you know, the one that lived on the floor underneath us in our flat, used to love him a lot. She was devastated when we left Jordan after 2 years. That's just the thing about our family though. We have family all over the world, and it seems that Norway is the right place to live sometimes. But moving seems to be an unavoidable part of our lives, and unfortunately something I just have to put up with. So after Jordan we went back to England. After living with my grandparents in England for a bit, my parents found a house down the hill for my grandparents that they ended up buying. So we moved in, and because my grandparents were so close, we could go to their house anytime we wanted. Behind my house was an apple tree I always used to climb, and an allotment that had things my granddad planted up until this day. And I was a video game addict at that point. I used to love Red Alert 2 from the Command & Conquer series. My brother and dad actually still play that game up until now, which is pretty nice. I did occasionally go outside though, don't worry. We had parks all around us I used to go to. There was one up the hill from us, one right next to the house, and one down the hill from us. The people there were better, but many of them took a long time to get to know me. I don't really blame them though. I had this terrible Jordanian accent at the time, and not that Jordanian accents are horrible or anything, but mine in particular was horrible. I did feel for the first year though that I didn't fit anywhere. The people in Jordan used to not like me because I was considered British, and the people in England used to not like me because I was considered an Arab. The following year people started becoming friends. We used to play this game where we had to hit a goal crossbar with a football. Of course we also played proper footy too though. We used to mimic the Premier League players and celebrate goals just in the same way, i.e. jumping on each other and nearly flattening each other. I also got glasses around that time that I hate, and say the truth, still hate. So as for the actual classes, year 5 was okay, but year 6 was epic. We had this awesome teacher who we used to call Mr. V. Everyone wanted to be in his class. The thing I remember the most about his classes was the clear up time, where we had to clear whatever we were doing before the Simpsons music he played on his laptop finished. We also had swimming lessons in that school, and I hated swimming lessons. After school, me and my sister used to go to the athletics club where we did all sorts of sports. I also went climbing and occasionally swimming. And in high school, I stopped the athletics club because I couldn't reach there in time after school. But I continued swimming and climbing. High school was good. It was scary at first being surrounded by all those older kids, but I found it okay after a while. There were these girls who tried to bother me, but I didn't let them. and there was also many other kids there, so I fit in really well. There was also this ice cream van, or Icky van as we called it. It used to sell sweets outside as well as ice cream. It wasn't all good though. There were these scary PE teachers. One of them looked like a rugby player who could easily flatten you, and the other always wore these sunglasses and used to be a bit better but still scary. We also had to wear ties, which I used to hate. I started to find my place with computers in that school though. I used to love computer class then, but I didn't really do anything big then, you know, like learning programming languages. But I love videoing and photography since I was in Jordan though, and took any opportunity to take a video or a picture. I'm still kind of the same now. Anyway, as for school, I stayed there for 1 year before we went on our next trip, this time to Saudi Arabia where we are now. We travelled to Saudi Arabia when I was in year 8, which worked out to be around 2009. I remember the first day. Well, I can't remember what time we travelled, so it may have been the following day, but I didn't want to leave our hotel on that day. To me, moving to Saudi seemed like the worst thing ever that happened to me. My dad did manage to get me out of the hotel somehow though. It was summer when we moved, so the heat felt unbearable. It was better than I thought though. I thought I wouldn't even be able to stand outside or you'll die or something. On the same day, we got our first taste of how passionate the Saudis were about safety. When we went to the bathroom, we saw there was a power socket in the shower. To be fair, it wasn't directly in front of the shower, but it was like here, and the shower was here. Not just for that reason, but for some other reasons, we moved to hotel the next day. The new flat was in Al Khabar, where we are living now, and I still pass that hotel. That has been taken over by another company, and I always remember our first days there. So as days passed, I got to know all the things you need to know while you're in Saudi, like women can't drive, the abaya thing, and that if you don't know a guy's name, you can call him Muhammad. I still don't do that though, I find it kind of weird. But very soon, I grew used to the Saudi customs and traditions. I don't believe everything, I'll follow everything, but at least I know about it. After searching many places, we finally found a place called home. It was pretty small, but it was a start. We had some pretty nice neighbours and a code machine across the road. There was also a little outdoor area to roller skate and play footy in. There was nothing compared to the massive park next to our old house, but it had to do. We also got our first flat screen TV there. I was so excited. I mean, how can't you be if this was your old TV? We had the longest holiday ever that year because the school in England finished before the schools in Saudi, and in turn the schools in Saudi reopened later than the ones in England. To be fair, we needed those days off though. We searched around many schools, we saw a lot of horrible schools. But we finally found our school, Aisha Zaman. At first glance I didn't really like the school, but as we were given a tour of the school and I got to think about it a bit, I loved it. On the first day in grade 7 or year 8 in English system, I just sat at the side of class sad with my life. I had this impression of school kids there, you see. I felt they were going to be just boring, lifeless kids who just studied all day and sat on their seats, or listening to the teacher who wouldn't even let you breathe without telling me off. How wrong I was though. The students here are just epic. 2 guys brought me around the school to some parts I haven't seen before, and everyone was basically the opposite of how I saw them. The people in school are from all corners of the world. They're people from Egypt, Korea, India, America, Lebanon, England. You name it, there's probably at least one kid from there. The crazy thing is though, that even though they're all from different parts, they got along better than anyone in my previous schools, even though they were all mostly British. On our first year, we had this school bus with the kids that always used to sing SpongeBob SquarePants every single morning. It was so annoying. Apart from them and my geography teacher and language arts teacher, which were the same teacher by the way, more on her later, everything was great in the school. On the same year, I got to go to China. The people there were kind of like a temporary family, and the teachers were like my parents. Before that time, I never had that feeling to anyone. While we were in that country, we basically lived on sticky rice and pizza. The other food was either not halal, so I couldn't eat it because I'm a Muslim, in case you didn't know. Or it just didn't look appetizing. We went to landmarks like the Temple of Heaven and of course the Great Wall of China, where my camera decided to run out. It was a great experience that was like no other, and I'm really glad that I went. I do plan to go back and take pictures of the Great Wall one day though. Going back to school, I also made my best friend in grade 7. He loved tech like I did, and many other things I loved. I even remember having an argument about which web browser is better once. I promise we only fought once about that though. We did fight about if Apple or Microsoft was better a lot though. We also talked about video games a lot, and sometimes just about other things like our countries. Of course I had the rest of school to be my friends though, and I never wanted to leave the place that I initially didn't even want to step one foot into. At that point, my geography and language arts teacher was my arch enemy. As of now we were okay, but back then I hated this teacher. She used to give us work that I felt was too hard for us, and the thing is that we had it for 2 subjects. And worse still, those subjects were both one after another. We had problems from the start to the end of the year. For grade 8, we were part of this group of teachers, what we call them a gang, and they always hang out together. All of them, apart from my health teacher. We had this great teacher who said the funniest things that year. She loved me, so she was okay with me, but if you got on her bad side, well, let's just say it wasn't a good idea to get on her bad side. She would always take up half the period by telling us her life stories. The rest she would try to rush through the lesson. Unfortunately, she passed away when I was in grade 8. As for the other teachers, if we did one thing bad to them, all of them knew about it. I was in my good books, so I was okay, but my sister who was in grade 8 wasn't as lucky. Around the same time we felt we had to move house. We had 2 houses to choose from. We definitely chose the right one though. It turns out our cousins chose the house directly opposite us to live in too. They were small though and were girls. Not saying that boys are better than girls or anything, but I found it hard to mix in with girls. So I didn't really go to them that often. But they were still great company, as were their parents. But I found it hard to get close to them. Anyway, going back to the house, it was a major upgrade from our last house. We no longer lived on the bottom floor, so we only had a balcony for our outdoor space. But the house in itself was really big anyways, and there was also an outdoor area downstairs where we sometimes played swing ball, and there was also a park just a short walk away. We also got a new driver. It was sad to leave our old bus, but at least we didn't have to listen to people singing SpongeBob SquarePants every single morning. I don't really remember the people in our new bus that much, because we only stayed in there a few months, maybe even weeks before we switched transport. One day our driver announced to us that there will be a new family in the bus. There wasn't a lot of space, so we all sighed. We all went into this kind of small compound. It was actually one of the places we considered living in, but we didn't. And a woman and 2 twins got in the back on the bus and moved to the back of the bus next to us, where I was sitting. I sighed. I felt tired, so I didn't want to talk to anyone new. The boy sat in the front, so I thought, yay, one less seat that had to be somehow found in the back. So I had been in Saudi for quite a while now, and even though it was a multicultural school, I haven't heard an English accent in ages. Well, apart from my parents and my brother and sister. But not that I like British people more than any other group, it was just a matter of it's epic to have somebody who knew where I was coming from to talk to. So me and the mum, we had a little chat on the way to school, even though I was tired. And as the days went on, I started to wonder what the boy was like in the front of the bus. I saw his mum and sisters, but I wondered what he was like. Little did I know that this boy in the front was going to be more than just a person to talk to. That he would become my new best friend and a person that I'll go on to call a brother rather than a friend. So for the first day we said nothing much, but later on we started talking about tales of him and his brother he had to leave behind in England. He really had a great life. We did talk a bit even after we came out of the bus, but nothing really more. After all, he was only 7 at the time. Why on earth would I want to hang out with a 7-year-old when I had so many friends my own age to hang out with? And besides, I already had a best friend, Ahmed. It was my sister Emily though who told my mum about the family and said that they should meet up over at the park next to our house. They only lived down the road from us, so they could easily reach it. After a while, we went on to each other's houses. My parents and the family's parents became friends. We then decided to share transport and take turns paying for it. At first, the mom used to come with us on the bus, but after a few weeks, she decided to stay at home. After all, she wasn't working at the school and really only acted as an escort to the kids. But now she trusted us to be the escorts instead. So in the morning and after school, I now became like a father. While we were at school, I would pick them up and drop them off once we reached school and make sure that they had everything when they left, which they normally didn't. In case you're wondering, this school is from KG1 to grade 12, so we're all in the same complex. So Connor, the son of the family, and me started talking more because he didn't have his mum anymore to talk to. He even started hanging out with me and my friends in the morning before class. He really caused a scene, and I often saw a crowd of people around him. As time went on, we began to think of each other as brothers rather than friends. And although I made sure I never got in the way of him and his actual brother. Anyway, let's fast forward to 2013. So now Ahmed has unfortunately left school, so have Max and Josh, who were twins, who were also great friends. I have made new friends though, that of course do not replace my old friends. To me, people have no replacement. Everyone is special in their own way, and until today I miss hanging out with Ahmed. Connor has also grown up and doesn't cling to me as much as he used to do then, and now hangs out with his own friends, kinda like their leader. Now they are proud around him instead. His mum also started working in the school as a preschool teacher. My brother Luther is now where Connor started off his life in Saudi, so I now see him doing some of the things Connor used to do at that time. He also has many friends and invited his first non-family friend over to the house a few months ago. Emily was the leader of the basketball team and is doing great in school. I also had my English and history teacher back from grade 7 for 3/4 of language arts this year, but now she left on maternity leave. We made up by the end of the year and I liked her, so it was sad to see her go after she had to leave. We also went back to Jordan last year to go and visit our cousins, and we went back to Kuwait this year to see where my dad grew up, and I've been to Mecca twice, which to say the truth is a bit disappointing area, which is not that nice at all, other than the actual mosque of course, and the buildings are always towering over it, kind of belittling it. Other than that, everything and everyone at the moment is doing great. And apart from the fact that some of the school was knocked down because some guy decided to build a road straight through it, and that I am now in high school, about to leave this great period of my life I'm living in, everything is great. We also moved house again to an area far from Connor and his family, so we have to get separate transport. As for the new house we are now living in, it is great, and has a great view over all the houses. There's also this flat for sale in front of our house that used to be a place where they used to build stuff. Not sure exactly what stuff though. Just kind of metal building stuff. We were all wondering what will be built on that site. Who knows, maybe it'll be another park. Even with all the changes coming to Saudi, they allowed me to experience a school that's full of cultures, who will welcome anyone who comes to their doors rather than reject them. It also let me experience an entirely different and sometimes strange culture, and most importantly gave me a brother who will be there with me for the rest of my life. Despite the age difference, I am now working on creating videos with my blood brother Luther over at the channel Toy Minecraft, which we plan to continue making videos for when we have the time. And I also create videos here at Stag96 about tech, which I love. In the future I plan to only get big on YouTube and to do great in school, but apart from that who knows, because if there's one thing I know, something's just worth fighting for. Sorry I had to say that, so it's not my fault if I like StarCraft. Okay, really though. 1, okay, 2. Important things I've learned from all of this is that you can never control the future. And that everything, I mean everything, even the most horrible, terrible things that happen in your life happen for a reason. Because after all, without my illness, we may not have ever moved from here, which then may have not led to the event that led to my dad wanting to go to Jordan, and so the events go on. Now looking back, I see that if even one of those events didn't happen, I may have not had the great experience that I experienced. I would have not met the epic people I met, and being the place called by very few was epic. But looking at all the experience I had, as well as the many that I didn't have time to mention, I don't think I had that bad of a life after all. So tomorrow when you wake up, know that you're waking up to a new day, one that's filled with new memories that will live with you for a lifetime, a new experience that may never be relived. After all, each day will only come around once, never to be repeated to the end of time. Thank you for watching, and see you all later. And of course, don't forget to smile.